Opa. Welcome, welcome. I'm just going to do a really quick sound check and we're going to get this show on the road. We'll be back in 2 shakes. And we're live. Hope the sound's good for everyone. Perfect. If you want the background music a bit louder, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to get these pretzels started. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into MyLiveChef. It's the Vlahos here in the frozen wasteland of central Canada. Many dog sled races away from where you're probably tuning in from. And your friend and mine, Shock, has invited me to come on today and start a series on really basic food, really basic prep, really basic, simple recipes, no gadgets, no crazy technique. You're not going to hurt yourself doing any of this. Good food. That's what it's all about here. Nice and simple. Rustic, which means crappy presentation, usually. And here we are. So today we are doing pretzels, which might seem a little daunting. It's really straightforward. Doing bread might have been an easier introduction to this, but whatever. You guys are smart, you're beautiful, you're sexy people. I'm sure you can jump to that next level on day one. But first, if everyone can like, share, subscribe, share today's stream on their old social media. Let your friends know that we're here. Share something like that would be fantastic. Ignatz, welcome. You followed me all the way over from India Dance Party. Thank you. Mariah Cat, welcome. No shameless plugs for people here. That's a cue for everyone to get their own swag. Send me their glasses. So I don't have all of my normal gadgets set up on the stream, but we'll get to that at some point. So for all the new people, all, I guess, 4 or 5 of you. If I ever go too quickly, if you want me to review something, if you want me to go into more detail, just let me know. Just scream in the chat, Vlahos, slow your ass down, pardon the language. I'm such a potty mouth, I know. There's no such thing as dumb questions. Most people don't even know how to properly boil an egg. So if making pretzels, if kneading dough, if measuring things is outside your wheelhouse, probably is. Most people don't know their way around a kitchen anymore. It's kind of a lost skill. Just ask. Don't be shy. Or send me a whisper, whatever. I'm always happy to answer questions about the cooking. Even when I'm offline, just shoot me a whisper on Twitch. Always happy. Just want to test one remote thing here, and we'll get. I still very much appreciate computers as much as they don't do what we want them to do. I think it's no small miracle that they actually boot up when we plug them into the magical zappy outlet in the wall. So hopefully we don't have any computer issues today. If I can get anyone to take a quick peek at that's the link to the recipe for today. I'm not going to get it up on the screen. Future streams I'll have the remote set up so I can just throw the recipe card. But the pretzels themselves are really, really straightforward. It's really straightforward. So we're going to start off with, first we're going to take a big step back. Thanks again for tuning in. We're going to explore mise en place, which is everything in its place. On a lot of the old cooking shows on the internet and terrestrial television, however you normally consume that content, most people don't. You'll see things laid out in advance. You'll see things pre-measured. I have 4 cups of flour here. I have 1 tablespoon of instant yeast and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Off to the side I have a jug of olive oil. It's the crappy hashtag mise en place. Thanks, Wade. Yeah, if you need stuff translated into French or Greek, in theory, I'm your guy. And these are the only real ingredients today. It's a very, very simple recipe. We have yeast, sugar, water, flour, salt, oil. We're going to use an egg later for the wash, some baking soda to condition the dough, and some big chunks of salt. That's it. So it's really, really basic ingredients today. So the thing about mise en place is we have everything's laid out in advance for a few reasons. One, you're not scrambling last second. You're not, oh, thanks for the sub, DJ Nuvo. Wow, look at you. You know what? We're gonna do something fancy here. I promised I wouldn't cry, but here we are. So for the mise en place, we have a few advantages. The first one is you can look at your recipe and you can look at the ingredients that you have laid out, and everything's ready to go. There's no last second scrambling. There's no, oh my God, I forgot to get this at the store. You know in advance if you're missing something. Everything's pre-measured. It turns cooking from something that could be a little hectic, a little stressful, a little overwhelming, into something a lot more casual, maybe even enjoyable, hopefully. Let's see if this works. I'm wondering if this works. Ooh, technology. It does work. Look at that. Small miracles. Yeah, so if we have the vast majority of our ingredients set up in advance, yeah, cooking becomes a lot less stressful. And you're not scrambling, running around going, oh my God, I have to dice an onion. I don't know what to do. I don't have any potatoes. I have to run to the store. When I was growing up, I saw a lot of variety shows and a lot of cooking shows. Go figure. And there was one interview on a noontime show. And I was, like elementary school, and somebody was being interviewed, and they were a master chef. And I thought, ooh, a master chef. This person must be amazing. And the interviewer asked the master chef, hey, what makes you a master chef instead of a regular chef? And the master chef said, I have all my ingredients laid out in advance. And they were serious, and that was it. That was it. That was kind of mind-blowing for me to hear as a kid. Now, do I have everything laid out in advance? For my own cooking, usually no, because I'm usually winging it based on what I have available in the kitchen. If I'm doing something complex, I know that I should, and I usually do. I find very few recipes complex, and the truth, and that's not bragging or anything. The reality is that there's very little in cooking that's truly complex. And Wade, that's exactly it. It's practice. A little bit of understanding goes a long way. Like, you don't have to understand the gastroscience, you don't have to understand the chemical reactions, although it helps. If you have a basic idea of the properties of food and how flavors pair, and the difference of like moisture and how to add or replace fats or just straight liquids, you can make all sorts of crazy substitutions. Like, functionally, what's the difference between lemon juice and lime juice? Really isn't. And then grapefruit juice, you can sort of substitute them. Or what's the difference between like a really basic vegetable stock, broth, and water? Well, one has flavor, one doesn't. And I rarely add, other than hydrating dough, I very rarely use water, other than to like cook pasta or something. I'd rather add flavor. So I will reach for chicken or vegetable, stock or broth. I will look for some other liquids to add flavor, add some wine or beer or whatever it is, instead of just water. And you can usually substitute those one for one. So back to my point, a bit of a rambling here. If you have a basic understanding of how the food works, of how the ingredients work, really basic knife work, you're good to go. Like, there's very few recipes out there in your basic cookbook or online that are really daunting. They shouldn't be. And just like with performing on stage the first couple of times, have a couple of drinks, have fun with it. Worst case is you throw it in the garbage and you order some tacos from some delivery place, or whatever your favorite delivery poison is. Papa Shock, welcome. I really like that shout out, Delio. I need to make it bigger though. I'm gonna do my best to not be 12 today. I'm gonna do my damnedest to not be 12 today. I know we're all adults, but I'm gonna do my damnedest to not be 12 today. And if everyone can, just please follow each other, just to make things easier. Like, everyone follow 7Shock99, fantastic jazz station. Follow MyLiveTube if you're not, you're dumb. Follow me. Hey, give me a shout out. Boom. Follow this guy. I do cooking stream Monday and Friday afternoons. 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. California time. Usually 2.5, 3 hours. Friday is my keto exclusive day. Wednesdays I do some painting, just miniatures for usually Warhammer, if you're into that. I do dive into a little bit of the paint theory, but it's more tutorial based. And just like the cooking, I don't claim to be fantastic, I don't claim to be great. I'm competent. I understand the science. Like, I have a really, really extensive academic background, and I get to apply a really wide range of skills and knowledge to some strange things like cooking and my painting. And stuff. I don't get to use my corporate experience a whole lot, but thank God for that. Just throw that stuff out the door. I'm glad I'm out of that environment. But so we have our recipe. And the basic recipe is we have our 1 tablespoon of yeast, 1 tablespoon of sugar. To this, we're going to add 1.5 cups of warm water, and we're going to let the yeast do its thing, become activated. The yeast. Now, technically, I should be sprinkling the yeast and the sugar into the water. I'm going to whisk this up anyways. And there's a lot of things that are technically slightly better, slightly preferred. The end result is, the difference is negligible. It really is. Now, normally, if I'm doing something with yeast, it's for some sort of a bread or breadstick or dough bun, whatever it is. I will usually use milk or cream. I usually use cream. And I will scald it, and what that means is to bring it up to about 190, 195 Fahrenheit. Just until it starts to bubble up a bit. And then I let it come down to about 110 Fahrenheit, basically a little warm. And then I use that to activate the yeast. When you scald the milk like that, you're getting rid of the lactic acid, and the lactic acid stops, it reduces the chance of the formation of gluten. So if you want your dough to be extra sticky, extra stretchy, extra captures those yeast farts, because that's what yeast does, you want more gluten. Yeah, the cooking science, just the actual chemistry behind it, the basics is all I think you really need to know. You don't have to go deep into like the different protein chains and how the different enzymes work and why papaya and pineapple, fresh raw pineapple, are the best ways to tenderize steaks, which they are. You don't need to know that stuff. You can just say, you know, Vlahos told me this, and for whatever reason I trust him, and I'll go with it. If you want to dive into stuff, pineapple and enzymes is a great example. Yeah, Wade, you know this stuff. Why aren't you doing this show? Come on. But fresh pineapple on pizza is disgusting because the enzymes will denature the cheese and it gets really gross and soggy and everything just tastes like caca-poo-poo. Canned pineapple, on the other hand, is heat treated just from the canning process, which kills those enzymes, so you can use canned pineapple on pizza. Whether or not it's heresy to put pineapple on pizza, that's up to you to decide. I don't touch religion. So, I should have gently whisked this up. Still gross, whatever. I'm kind of on team pineapple. Most of my friends think I'm gross for that and other reasons. This is going to take, I already tested the yeast earlier today. Some people will recommend that you test your yeast just to see if it's still alive. Team pineapple. That's right. And I didn't know the ham and pineapple pizza was invented by a Greek dude in Ontario in the, I think it was 62. I looked it up again the other day. Let's not discuss, yeah. Yikes. So I know that this yeast is still active, so I'm just going to let it do its thing. It's going to slowly activate, and then I'm going to mix that into this dough. In training, into this flour, I'm going to be adding about a tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm going to be kneading the heck out of it. And then we're unfortunately going to have to let it rise in the oven for at least an hour. So I don't know. Maybe I could demonstrate my mad twerking skills. I don't know. We'll figure. Apparently, I'm not supposed to. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out.
Wade says, can you give a tutorial on why you might use active yeast versus instant yeast for the beginning crew?
Active yeast. This is the stuff to use. Just go with it.
That's not a tutorial.
Oh yeah, sorry. How's the music in the background? Is it quiet enough? Is it loud enough? Is it too much? Too little? Yeastmaster J.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like active dry yeast is it's dehydrated. The instant yeast is usually more finely ground. They're basically interchangeable. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they are. Don't mess around with fresh yeast unless you're really adventurous. For the beginning, the starting baker, I just prefer using active dry yeast in general. When some recipes will call for a package, and I'll say like 0.25 ounces or something, it usually means 1 tablespoon or thereabouts with the water and how to activate it. Just follow the instructions on the package when all else fails. All my recipes on the Daily Bear, I use the instant dry yeast, and I always activate it with some warm water, usually a bit of sugar, sometimes honey. There's a keto bread recipe where I use wheat gluten, and yeah, keto, but I use wheat gluten, and actually form a real dough, and the gluten, which is a protein, I get to use real yeast, so it tastes like real bread and it rises like real bread because it kind of actually is real bread. And that uses real yeast, and I feed the yeast, speed up that farting process. When the yeast eats things and it expands, it releases CO2, and those bubbles is what causes the bread it's the leavening agent that causes the bubbles and makes the bread rise. I usually feed it with honey, and 1 tablespoon of honey across an entire loaf of bread, for anyone that counts carbs, just round it down to 0, because it basically is. A slice of that keto bread, which tastes a lot like whole wheat bread, especially when you toast it. It's less than 1 gram per slice, so if you're freaking out about the keto counts, yeah. But Wade, I was actually thinking about doing a really deep dive into salt and the differences between the different salts and yeast, and it's kind of on the back burner of a little shorts that I'm going to be making. Like for my Monday stream, I shouldn't say kill an hour. I needed to occupy the stream for about an hour because I was hosting a different meeting for a charity, and I sort of double booked, very double booked. But I did an hour of vegetable prep, and it's pretty amazing how long you can stretch how to like carefully cut and prep vegetables. So if anybody's really curious about that, just go check out my stream at some point, or just ask me and I'll throw up a YouTube link at some point. Okay, so this, see how well I just stretch things out? It's like a gift. This is, thanks again for the shout out, starting to do its thing. We're almost ready to take the yeast that's active and mix it in with the flour. As far as the kneading process, before you make any adjustments, you'll always need an extra bit of flour. You should always have some handy. And you should have some extra warm-ish water. I mean, if you have a running tap water that you trust, that's great. Otherwise, a kettle that's been boiled a while ago, so the water's still a little warm, is handy. When you're kneading dough, before you think about adjusting by adding more flour or more liquid, just knead it for another couple of minutes, and then make a really, really tiny adjustment and knead the heck out of it. And don't even think about making adjustments until you've done some serious kneading for at least 1, probably 2 minutes, maybe longer. Flour is fairly moisture absorbent. My apartment is super duper dry today. It's usually kind of dry. It's incredibly dry today. So I'm probably going to need more water than I currently have in here. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments. And a few things to keep in mind are your altitude is going to make a bit of a difference with your baking in general. Because of the way the pretzels are cooked, like the dough itself is conditioned by quickly boiling it in a very alkaline solution. We're going to make it alkaline today with a box of baking soda. Instead of using some rather dangerous lye, we can use baking soda to do what we want. So we're going to make our pretzels, we're going to form them, we're going to boil them for about 30-45 seconds, maybe a minute. in very baking soda-ified water. And that's also going to help the pretzels puff up a bit. The extra heat from boiling them is going to activate the yeast again. They're going to rise a bit more. We put those on a sheet. We're going to bake them at a high temperature, and that's the whole process. That's the whole thing. But when you're kneading the dough itself, you really, if you have a stand mixer, I mean, good for you. If you're going to make bread regularly, you might want to invest in it. I still haven't. I don't have room for it anyways. But you can get a bit of a workout. So if you're going to make some fresh bread while you're gothercising, I don't know. I think there's a little combo there, and you can balance out that gothercising with eating lots of carb-filled bread. It's a win-win, right? More shock, more goth, more size, and more size. I'm not going to quit my day job. Normally I will start the mixing. Hopefully this is in frame, if you will. I'm always terrified to adjust this camera, this Logitech. For whatever reason, it sometimes crashes whenever I touch it. So I'm just gonna slightly adjust this. Did it crash? Okay, good. Yeah, Wade, there's something about being connected to the things you're doing. There's something about that physical connection. I completely agree, and it might sound a little hokey to some, but when you actually feel and experience the process, it just seems better. And you know that you did it. You didn't just pour your instant mix into the bread making machine that just pops out a loaf after 3 hours. Let's hear it for carbs. Yay, carbs. Now, full disclosure, I really hate this part of first adding the yeast and the water to the flour, because I hate my hands getting dirty. I'm a chronic hand washer. Hey, Queen Valerian, welcome. Welcome. So I'm going to scrub my hands very thoroughly with this flour. I'm going to quickly exfoliate and get rid of any hair that might want to loosen itself. If I was doing this professionally, I'd be wearing gloves. I don't want hairs ending up in my pretzels. I also want my hands to be well floured so things don't stick quite as badly. It's sunny and glorious, minus 25 Celsius. Yeah, that's about right. And crazy dry. Crazy dry. Okay. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Beautiful. Gotta get my hands dirty. Got to get my hands dirty. And you don't want to know what I've done with these hands. I used to be a full-time musician. Okay. Well, that's it. Time to get my hands dirty. The things I do for you guys. What did I do that was interesting in the last week? Oh, I made spaghetti from scratch the other... When did I do? That wasn't Monday, was it? I guess it was Monday. Time flies when you're having fun. It's super easy. So I'm just loosely mixing this together, and I need to be scraping the sides down. I need to get all of the moisture in contact with the flour. And once this starts to come together, I will start the traditional kneading. We're almost there. I'm going to have obvious clumps in here that are very wet, that are just surrounded with the flour. And the kneading process, I'm just mixing things better. So just push down, pick up the bottom, fold it back, push down. And if you want to be cool, you can like karate, give it a little twist, speeds it up a touch more. Fold it over, push down, fold it over, push down, fold it over, push down, fold it over, push down. Now you can just keep pushing things in until you have like a little bowl that forms, and then fold it over. Really, whatever floats your boat, as long as you're working the dough. And what's happening here on the gastro level, the science level, is the flour has a whole bunch of proteins, and we are encouraging those protein strands to get broken up. The weaker strands are going to break, and then just from a little bit of randomness, the stronger chains can reform as gluten. So the longer you work your dough, the more gluten forms. Which is why for things like pie, you want to work your flour as little as possible, because you don't want gluten to form. For a pie crust, you want it light and flaky. You don't want it to be stretchy. You don't want like a soft pita. You want flakes. Now, have I mentioned it's crazy dry in here? I'm gonna have to add a bunch more water, and I know this already. Hope I muted the right one. I'm probably gonna need a whole quarter cup water, but here we are. If you're using a stand mixer, it takes about 10 minutes, give or take. Live painting. I do live painting. You know the dough is ready when it comes clean from the edge of the bowl. When the dough comes clean, and this goes from being really dry or really sticky to being silky, smooth, maybe a little spongy, a little elastic, but it should come clean off the sides. Whoops, sorry about the shaky cam. I bumped it with the side. I am from the Canada lands. I am from the Winnipeg, or as we say in Greek, a Unipeg. I was actually planning on coming down to California for the month of January. Back in late summer was when I started making the plans, and then stuff happened and things didn't change, and I was there's the potential of getting some carpal tunnel surgery on my right arm, and that was going to be the big one. But yeah, I was actually hoping to do a full month around California. So maybe next year. I think I know enough restaurateurs that I could do some streams from someone's kitchen. I'd have to figure something out with the cameras. Okay, this needs more water, and I know it needs more water, so I'm going to give it some more water. Now, normally I would recommend you only add literally a tablespoon of water at a time. But I know this is going to need a lot more, just because it's so dry here. And I made some earlier today. Shh. Yeah, the background music's fantastic. I heard it many times last night. If you guys want the music louder or more quiet, just let me know. I can go adjust it. squishy mess. I hope you guys can hear this. Oh yeah, sorry, the painting. It's mostly for Warhammer ASMR, yeah. It's mostly for Warhammer. I'm currently doing a commission for someone. Again, I don't claim to be any master painter, but I understand the science, I understand the color theory, I understand the medium. I have a fairly steady hand. Squish, squish. Amaranth ain't got nothing on me, baby. I got all the ASMRs happening. Okay. And yeah, I did add a little too much water, but I know I'm going to need this much. If I was just making the minor adjustments, again, I just use a tablespoon at a time. The first time you make a recipe, I keep things mostly... Oh, so, Hero Forge, I actually have a couple of Hero Forge models that I ordered for a Pathfinder campaign, and I will be doing those on the stream, because they're going to be epic. They're going to be really, really impressive. And I think one of them I'm expecting to put in an honest at least 25 hours into, at least. And the other one might be in the 40-hour range. Oh, nice! A couple of your friends work there. Matahari, that's awesome. And you know, shout out to Hero Forge. I had a problem with one of my first figs that I ordered from there. And yeah, they replaced it right away. Well, they just said, "Can you send a picture?" And I did. And they're like, "Hell yeah, sorry about that." And they just shipped it out right away, and I had it within a couple of days. Now, for the price that I paid, I kind of expected it, but to be fair, to be totally fair, I was really impressed with the customer service. So shout out to Hero Forge, and I'm looking forward to painting those figs because they're really, really, really well done. I have one character that was I'm sure there's more than a few people in the group that play some sort of tabletop game. I had a bard that was a trip master, and Hero Forge, where you can customize the heck out of your model. You can pick whatever race, whatever size you want, change the facial feature, different arms and the poses. You can fully customize the model, and then they print it off of the interface. So it's really, really cool. So my trip bard, it wasn't true to the character, but the model looked really sweet. There's this chain whip, but it's actual like blocks of chain that are all spiky. And I thought, I have to do this in a non-metallic metal style, and that's going to take 15 hours minimum just to do the whip. Minimum 15 hours. And I'm so looking forward to it. Yes, I'm a geek. And a nerd, yeah, and a nerd. Yes, Mariah Cat, yes you are. So one thing on my streams, if I know there's going to be a lot of, I hate saying dead time, but if there's a lot of just needing time or I'm waiting for things to rise, sometimes I will prepare something a little in advance. So I have my TV magic moment. But I do try to have everything done live, real time, just so you can see what the whole process is. Bread time, bedtime, yeah. You can't rush good food. In general, you can't. Well, yes, technically you can. You shouldn't. How's that? You shouldn't. Okay, here's some food science nerd time. Is if you want to save time kneading your dough, you can put in extra water and let the flour soak in it. Because just sitting in the extra water, the proteins in the flour will break apart on their own and start kneading itself for you. The downside is your dough is stickier to begin with. The upside is you get much more gluten formation without using bread flour. And since I mentioned bread flour, the difference between your three basic flours, there's your cake flour, which has lower protein, and it's normally in the like 5 to 8% protein range. Your all-purpose flour is in like 7 to 10, 11% protein range, something like that. And then your bread flour is like 10 to 13, 15% protein. And the reason it's measured by the protein is because the more protein there is in the flour, the greater the chance of formation of gluten. And the gluten is really the deciding factor between if you're making a cake, something more all-purpose, or a bread. And again, all-purpose flour is all you really need. It's all you really need. And you can turn all-purpose flour into cake flour by cutting it with some cornstarch. And cornstarch is also the secret ingredient into making floofy white Chinese-style dumpling buns. And one of these days I will do another stream on dim sum and the various dim sum rolls. I'm sure you guys have dim sum wherever you are. Bao buns, yeah, whatever you want to call them. Steamed buns, you can bake them, fill them with whatever you want. See, this would be almost a little too sticky. I know if I need this a little longer, it will come together. So I'm just going to quickly rub this across the outside of the bowl, try to pick up any of these loose bits. If there's things on here that are crusty, crunchy, and dried, I don't want them. They will reconstitute, they'll become hydrated and not crunchy, not crusty. But why risk it? Spack. What I like to do for letting my dough rise, some recipes will call for tossing it in a lightly oiled bowl. So if you picture this bowl and pretend it's clean, like spotless, and I throw a little bit of oil in there, and I slap this bad boy down, and I spin it around a bit, I'll get a light sheen of oil. And as the dough rises, that oil should be able to stretch and keep the moisture stuck in. And ooh, food time! Thanks, Shock. Enjoy your lunch. What I personally do the majority of the time is I just crack open the, I'm not sponsored by these guys yet, but soon hopefully, Kirkland. I just give it a light spritz of oil. And you can cover this with something like a tea towel. And it's mostly, and that's the traditional recipes, we'll say just cover it with a tea towel and leave it in a draft-free place. It's supposed to be draft-free because you don't want the moisture from the dough to disappear. You don't want it to evaporate. So protecting everything with a thin layer of oil is great. And covering the whole thing with cling wrap is double great. Schulte TV, hey. Yeah, Mariah Cat, I kind of hope they sponsor me too, but not holding my breath. Okay, so this is coming off the side of the bowl nicely. It's not sticking to anything. If you take the dough and sort of stretch it and wrap it around, it's going to tear a bit, but if you don't see big obvious chunks where it's obviously too dry, it's a good indication that it's ready to just be left alone. Especially when you look at the bottom. So what I did here is I just pull the top, stretch it, and then here's the bottom side. I just kind of tuck this in. And after you tuck it in, if it looks kind of like a homogeneous, we're making pretzels. Schulte TV, we're making pretzels. If it comes together and it stays stuck together like this, it's good. If it's if you can see the obvious parts that were stretched out and folded over, and you see the separations, you might want to add a bit more moisture. Okay, so this is, it feels just a touch sticky, but it's coming clean off my hand, it's coming clean off the bowl. I could scrape that stuff down, don't need to. Giving it just a really light spritz. Yoink. I got my cling wrap dispenser. Yeah, so I was saying before, what I like to do is very quickly warm up my oven. I'll just turn it on for literally 1 or 2 minutes, just so there's a little bit of heat in there. I'll turn off the oven and I'll leave the oven light on. And for all of you old farts that are my age, you know what a Betty Crocker oven is? Keeps things perfectly warm. Okay, so this is going to go into my pre-light turned on Betty Crocker oven. And through the power of the internet, mind blown. Now this is actually a half batch. When things are left alone to rise, it's at least an hour, usually 2.5 is the sweet spot. If you're making breads, you can punch it down, and it literally is you can either use your fingers, and I'll demonstrate that, but you either just give it a good whack or just gently push some of the air out. Schulte, are you talking about soft pretzels or like pretzel sticks? And the difference is probably how alkaline the water bath is. And that's going to be the single biggest factor, I think. So the pretzels in Europe, do they have more of that distinct like pretzel stick flavor, or do they taste more like a bread dough, like a bun? Which one has more of that distinct pretzel flavor? Because that pretzel flavor is from the baking soda or lye, the alkaline bath that you use to condition the pretzels before you bake them. Baking soda or lye, L-Y-E. Lye is kind of dangerous, and you shouldn't have any lying around unless you're into getting rid of corpses. And if you are, give me a holler. Just because I want some lye for baking, not for any other reason. Okay, so we have this that's been in the oven for about an hour and a half, hour 45, and it's about doubled in size. Yeah, Schulte TV, my first guess would be because of the lye, how alkaline the water bath was and how long it was left to boil for. Yeah. Just catching up on the chat. Okay. So I want to make sure this is all. So this is nice and poofed up, so I'm just going to gently push in with one finger. We'll see that I can just deflate this a lot just by pressing down. Some people say, punch it down. And now it's not inflated anymore. So when you're making bread, when you're making rolls, it's not quite as necessary, but when you're making bread, you can let it rise multiple times. And some people say you have to let it rise at least twice. Some people say more if you're a hardcore sourdough person, like maybe 5 or 6 times. I think that's just crazy talk. 2 is more than enough, 1 is fine. 2 is more than enough. So here we have a half batch. And we're going to, that full recipe makes about 8 pretzels, so we're going to make about 4 with this. So before I do anything else, I want to get the water measured out and started. It's one of the few things I didn't do in advance, sorry. And much like the cool stuff on Twitch, I think it's fantastic when there's like a interaction between the streamer and the viewers. So if anyone has any questions or comments, anything, just feel free to throw it out. There's very few subjects that I won't discuss. Again, no hot button subjects. I don't want to talk about news, weather, sports. What's that other one? Android versus iOS or other religions. And especially no sports. But if anything related to the stream or most of my personal stuff, I'm happy to discuss most of it, if you're at all curious or interested. Because this interaction, I think, is what's going to separate the old school terrestrial TV and YouTube from, I think, the future of like real interactive media, which is Twitch or maybe metaverse stuff, who knows. What do I know? I'm old. I still have a GeoCities page somewhere. I do have a OnlyFans page, but I still, for some reason, can't get verified. Because every time I go through the verification process, my driver's license doesn't have a beard, and they don't. There's always some problem with my application. And food work is real work, you know. So, just saying, if anyone out there works for the competition, talk to your bosses, because I'm still trying to get verified on OnlyFans. Schulte TV, yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. And I've been dreading taking my streams from last year, because I just started last March, April, something like that. But I have about 100 episodes. No, wait, not 100. I think I have about 300 hours of footage. And from there, like, most of my streams have between 1 and 5 recipes. Like, I did gyro one day. So I recorded some of the segments in advance. So I made my own yogurt. And I used my own yogurt to make my own tzatziki. And I made my own gyro meat. And I made my own pitas. And then I cooked it all on the stream. And it's surprisingly easy to make yogurt. And it's a boat. Did I say a boat? I'm so Canadian, eh? Yeah, so there's a lot of recipes that I can, and the subcomponents that I can, originally I wanted to edit and put on YouTube. I hate editing. I do. And if anyone out there wants to volunteer, I will send you food in exchange for editing my videos. But at some point, I need to, you know, Sudeep, sorry. It sounds impressive. It really isn't. It honestly isn't. And I'll show you. What you saw me do earlier is all you have to do to make gyro. I mean, the pitas. A cast iron pan helps, but the stuff that you saw. Well, Schulte, I'm Greek, so of course it's real gyro. And the way I make gyro is you can just chop an onion in half and use that as a base, put some skewers in it, sticking up, and then you just layer your meat and fat and meat and fat and meat and fat, and then you roast it. And then you have this pyramid that's in your oven. You don't need the rotating gyro or donair spit. And yeah, you can make your own gyro meat out of whatever meat you want. You know, preferably, I think the last ones I did one pork and one chicken. Lamb's good if it's got lots of fat in it. Yeah, just a bunch of thin layers of meat that have been soaking in a marinade for, you know, overnight at least. And you just let all those juices, like you let the fat, you render the fat and then just let it form into that beautiful block, and then you can just shave the meat and make your own gyro. This is yogurt that I made on January 1st, January 8th. So I take this, a slow cooker, and a jug of milk, and the next day I have yogurt. And it's literally, you take a jug of milk in your slow cooker, you bring it up to about 190 degrees, and you let it cool down, and then you mix some active culture yogurt, or save some yogurt from your last batch. You gently stir it in. I mean, what's easiest is if you take a couple of cups out and you whisk this yogurt into it, and then slowly stir that in. And then take your slow cooker, just the container, and put that in your Betty Crocker oven for 8 to 16 hours, depending on how tangy you like your yogurt. And then you get some cheesecloth and a colander, and you just dump it in, and you strain it to as thick as you want. And that's it. That's literally as easy as it is to make yogurt. And then to make the tzatziki, the tzatziki is really easy. A donair, it's the same thing as a gyro. It's effectively the same thing, shush. It's more of a name brand thing for the rotisserie. I think that's where it comes from. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's the name brand of the machine for that, the vertical rotisserie, which is just a weird shaped spit, vertical spit with toaster elements around it, oven elements. So I'm getting together about 9 cups of water. Yeah, and I'm going to use 2/3 of a cup of baking soda to 9 cups of water. So I've got about 4 cups coming in from my kettle. And if you're ever going to boil water, I believe it takes less electricity to use your kettle to get a few pints. I really get confused with US liquid measurements. So please bear with me, but I like to use my kettle just to get the water, or some of it at least, boiling. Just it helps speed up the process. So sudi, when you say donair sauce, it's like a yogurt sauce that's got maybe chunks of cucumber and very garlicky. Because in my world, that's what it is. But I know there's different versions of it. Just like baklava, if you're talking about Western Greece versus like west of like Athens, to like Central Greece, to like Middle Eastern, baklava has very different flavor profiles. Like you'll go from having like no cardamom to having cardamom to being sweetened with honey or rosewater or citrus. It really depends on the region, and even though the food is called the same, the flavor profiles are different enough that I think it should be called by a different name. But I think that's a little bit too much of a deep dive into the food semantics. I've got 2/3, sorry about the noise, 2/3 of a cup. One of the coolest pizzas I had was a butter chicken curry pizza.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. One of the many restaurants that my family built was a pizza place, but it was first we built an East Indian restaurant for this really fine fellow Harry Harbinder. Harry had wanted to open a pizza place as well. So just down the street, he built another restaurant as a pizza place. Then he had the brilliant idea of making a butter chicken pizza, and oh my god, is it amazing! It is so good. It is so good. And the rest of his pizzas, yeah, it's not bad for cheap pizza, but the butter chicken, whew, unrivaled. So at some point today, I'm going to need to adjust the camera so you can see what the boiling process is. Probably should have done this underneath the camera. Just slide this over. Fizzy goodness. So this I'm going to need to let, I'm going to keep it warm. I'll bring it to a boil when I'm more ready to boil the pretzels and get them baked. And no one complains about me getting them baked, right? You got to give me one, come on. Now, I don't like gadgets. I don't endorse gadgets. My Silpat, yeah, it's in the territory of gadgetry. It's a really nice non-stick silicone mat. You can get the non-name brand silicone mats that are good for 450, 500 something Fahrenheit. I just prefer the OG one. These things are hideously expensive. If you can find one cheap, grab one. It's good to have one or two of these lying around. You can always use parchment paper. I just prefer these because the bottoms don't brown or burn as much as you might risk when you're using an aluminum or an iron pan or just a steel pan. It just helps buffer the heat. Yeah, Wade, these things are fantastic, and unfortunately they're hideously expensive. By hideously, I mean I think this is probably $40 US, $30 US, something like that. I know, it's kind of crazy. Made in France. Fabriqué en français, wahan, en France, wahan. Made in French. Oh yeah, another pro tip is don't store your baking sheets and muffin tins in the warming tray underneath your oven. It's actually designed to keep your food warm. That's what the whole point of that tray is. It's not storage. It's to put your food to keep it warm while you're baking other things. But can someone in the chat tell me if you actually do that? If you actually use the compartment underneath your oven for warming food, or if you use it as storage? I want to hear one person claim that they actually use it for something other than storage. Probably going to call you a filthy liar, but please let me know. I want to know if someone's going to even claim that. Really? Well, Wade, it seems like you know what you're talking. God damn it. Fine. There's one person. Shame on you. Really? I think part of my bias and part of my problem is that my kitchen is so freaking tiny. So right here I'm touching my cupboards and I'm almost at the end of my oven with my arms. So I'm 6'2", so we've got about 74 inches from my cupboard to the edge of my stove. I have like 3 feet up to where my computer is. No. And I've got like 2 feet of depth here, give or take. Okay, so in the meantime, this is starting to rise. I'm going to leave this somewhere else because I'm going to need to preheat the oven because we're almost ready to start baking the pretzels. This has gone a little faster than I was expecting. I might need to do something else today. Let me think about that. I'm just going to leave this on the counter. Oh, there is something we need to do. Can anyone guess what's going to happen? Mariah Cat Ignatz, that's your cue. Can anyone guess what's going to happen? I'm going to make a little bit of a wash. Technically it's a glaze, but we're going to call it a wash. I'm just going to beat this egg with a little bit of water, and I'm going to be brushing the tops of the pretzels and then sprinkling some salt, and this egg mixture is going to keep the salt in place. Oh. Oh, Sudeep, that's awesome. So jealous. Okay. So we need to break open this egg. Any requests? Any recommendations of how to do this? Yeah, you crack it, I guess. I'm a little concerned because these are farm eggs and the shells are a little thin. I'm not really thrilled with this batch. In general, you should crack your eggs and separate them over separate them into and over a separate bowl, just in case you get undesired things in your egg shell in this beautiful container. Like beaks and feathers. You don't want beaks and feathers to land in your dough. You don't want it going into your cake mix. Worst case, if you're getting beaks and feathers, you want it to land in a bowl that you can do something else with, like throw it out or make exactly. Shock, you kill me. So we're gonna break this egg. There we go, nice and broken. Oh no, I got a piece of eggshell in there. Oh no, whatever will I do? I think I might need to use my fingers to stab at this piece of eggshell that fell in here. Damn it, it's not working. I'm freaking out. Oh, look, I got it. Now, egg horror. So, now let's pretend that we have a couple of pieces of eggshell in here. And we're like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. I don't know what's going on. I'm freaking out. I'm going in reverse. Conveniently, you have this nature's very own eggshell scooper remover. The Exorcist, oh my god, that's awesome. That is epic. Or egg, I'm not going to go there. Okay, so you can use this shell, and the shell has this amazing property of just being able to cut right through the egg white. It's like magic. So we can dump out a bit of the egg white, the albumin if you will. And then we can, you can scoop out the piece of eggshell, and we can just go in again, once again, into the breach, and scoop up the other piece of egg white. The power of you compels you. Yeah, you guys are all hilarious. This is good. You guys should tune into my stream once in a while, liven things up. It's awesome. Yeah. So, do I recommend you do this? Well, if you need to, heck yeah. I do this all the time. Anytime there's an egg involved with my stream, the The last few times I was a little aggressive with just how hard I threw the egg into the bowl, and I made quite the mess a couple of times. Now, I do save my eggshells for my sister to compost. There's a few kitchen hacks, as the cool kids call them. Whenever they come up organically, or maybe inorganically, I will do my best to draw attention to it. Like peeling garlic is another one of my personal favorites. I do take, these guys are sprouting. I will take a bulb of garlic, and I'll maybe break the root up a little bit. But if you throw it in a big glass jar and shake the heck out of it, you can pour it out and then take the paper out, throw the cloves back in the jar, shake it up again, and they end up looking a heck of a lot like this, already peeled, mostly peeled anyways. Is that really a hack? Does it save you any time? Almost, and it definitely leaves your fingers not reeking of garlic. Now, if that's your thing, and I'm not going to criticize, I'm not going to judge, if you're into your fingers smelling like garlic and getting that wonderful Allison stuff underneath your nails, sweet. But if you're not into it, you might want to consider peeling your garlic in a jar. And there's a few other hacks like that do come up from time to time. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw in 1 tablespoon of water. Give or take. I'm going to whisk this up, and I will get a brush, silicone brush ready for later on. I'll whisk this in a few minutes. Now, there's something neat about the homogeneity of food. For our pretzels, we want big chunks of salt randomly spread on the top. We don't want a thin layer of salt over the entire top of the pretzel. We want a few chunks of salt. There's some foods where you want the even consistency of things, like a cake, for example. Most cakes you want to taste cake-like all the way through. If you want something like a fruit cake, you're expecting those random chunks. Similarly with pretzel, like if you have a sauce, you want the sauce to be in general. You want it to taste the same all the way through. You want it to have the same consistency, the same mouthfeel, the same everything. Some foods you want there to be those unique big chunks of flavor. You want just those distinct texture and tastes. So we don't have finely ground salt in a paste that we spread over the top of the pretzel. We want big chunks. Hopefully I've drilled that point home. So I'm just going to crack this bad boy open, and I'm just going to grab some of this into a little bowl. Now these salt crystals are a little big. Well, technically I did. Yeah, you got me. You got me. Damn you. Okay, so I'm just letting this alkaline bath come up to temperature. I'm going to weigh this. Oh my god, I should have gotten to this sooner. You can see how dry it is in here. It's already drying up and cracking. So I should put a little splash of warm water on the top and get rid of the cracky drying. When I said it's dry in here, I wasn't kidding. Like, it's super duper dry in here. but this is definitely not sticky, and it's holding together quite nicely. Okay, you behave. I'm getting a thing, my coffee. Now we can be super extra nerdy and weigh this. Book. 521 divided by 4. Quick. 100 and something, right? Is it around there? Yep, it's exactly there. Is that about right? It's a touch too much? Close enough. Anything around 130 to 140 grams is going to be good. Yeah, okay, these are a little light. I'm going to take a little pinch from here, throw it on that one. Pinch from there, throw it on this one. We're good. Or you can just eyeball everything. Part of me still regrets not having sprung for the Snoop Dogg branded kitchen scale. You guys are so much fun. Clang. Need to make a little bit of room here.
Yes.
Mariah Cat, you missed the egg catastrophe. Yes, you did. Snoop bakes often. That's awesome. Well done. Well done, Brain. So I want to roll this out to something around a ½ inch in diameter on a lightly floured surface. So I'm just going to pull this out a bit and just roll it up. These guys I should actually give a quick spritz of oil on because it's so freaking dry. Or I could just cover this bowl with some cling wrap that I'm going to pretend I didn't throw out. A moist towelette, some paper towel, so you can speak moistly. Bonus points if you get the reference. No politics, except for that. Hashtag not my drama instructor. It cracked me up. Might have put a touch too much flour onto the dough here, but that's fine. I want something fairly evenly, about ½ inch in diameter. Then I'm going to form this into something like a pretzel. Now, if this, oh, Tim Hortons. I haven't had one of those in ages. Well, it's the cream. I don't know how Tim's are in the States, but up here, there's a bit of an urban legend that says late at night when no one's watching, the evil corporate overlords of Tim Hortons inject their coffee beans with extra caffeine to make it extra addictifying. Yeah. So I do believe that the reason why Tim Hortons coffee is so popular up here is because of the cream. Because they use a proprietary blend, much like Colonel Sanders. It's around I think they have something like 20% cream. It's something like that, 20% fat. Okay, so this one's going to be a bit of a disaster because it's a little too dry. That's fine. I will. You know what? I'm just going to wet this down. Maybe fix it up. I do not mind when things go bad on the stream, because if it goes wrong for me, and I've done this a couple of times, it's probably going to go wrong for you, and it helps, I think, if you see how to fix things that go wrong, right? So if I pull this too thin and rip it, I can just form it into a ball and roll it out again. So because I got a little too much flour on the dough, it just wasn't rolling out very well. So I just added a bit of water, and I can roll it to something closer to 1/2 inch in diameter. If it's not staying stretched out like this, like if the dough's pulling together too quickly, just let it rest for a few minutes. Just cover it up, throw it back in the bowl, cover it with a damp towel, let it sit for a bit. Usually becomes easier to work with. So, nice and easy. We form a little bit of a loop. We can just tie this little guy underneath. And somebody has pointed out that that looks like a floppy something or other. We're not looking to win any contests for presentation. We just want something kind of functional. So I'm going to roll up 4 of these. Oh, that one's kind of ripping. I might need to add a little more water to these because this one is actually tearing. You floppy snake. Yeah. Wade, I think we need to get together sometime in meet space and hang out. I think you'd be an absolute hoot. Okay, I'm going to let that moisture incorporate into that bad boy. I'm going to try to roll this one out. Again, your kitchen challenges might be very different than mine. I can't stress enough just how dry it is in here. Like, I'm rather surprised I haven't had to mute my microphone more to clear my throat just because it's so dry in here. I know my voice is already changing. It's like the bad parts of puberty all over again. Aww. Okay, so I'm just rolling this out. I have a juicer with a breadstick attachment that is normally perfect for extruding the breadsticks / pretzels, but the cap on it broke. So I'm waiting to get a replacement for it. And I was really thinking about doing a different recipe for today, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it all by hand anyways, because my juicer is totally a gadget. There's a question here. What's the question?
Roll it out lengthwise with the rolling pin and then roll it widthwise to make it round, like
I'll get those separations on it, because it'll start drying out, so I'm going to try to roll it up.
into a round shape.
It'll start breaking up. So there's a really cool question here from the studio audience. Could I use a rolling pin to make basically a rectangle, just roll it out lengthwise and then sort of stretch it out and then roll it up into a tube? And the reason why that doesn't work is you can already see these cracks. These would be very much amplified if I did it that way. If it's moist enough and your dough hasn't started to dry up like this, you might be able to get away with it. I can't up here. So you might have to squeeze it a bit, coax it out. That's about 1/2 inch. a little knot. Just going to quickly whisk this up. Don't break out your hand mixer, just use a fork or a whisk for this. Boom. Expect the crayon is right. Yeah, Mariah Cat, I figured you were totally AFK with the, when I broke out the egg. I definitely know PVD isn't on, because he's usually the first to shout out, use your fingers. Also what she said. Shock, do we really have to be PG-13? Can we bump it up to like NC-17? YA-14? Something? Yeah, work is a 4-letter word, that's for sure. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we're going to be closer to that 3-hour mark. But so far, I think it's pretty clear that we haven't done anything. By we, I mean me. Aw, thanks, Mariah Cat. Thank you for those wonderful biddies, all the Corgos. Wait, it's Thursday, so yeah. We will see you many more times tonight. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you have a bit of chunky bits, that's fine. We'll make it work. Mariah Cat, I want to thank you. You and Ignatz are the best, and really appreciate you guys tuning in, and the support's also really very much appreciated. Good enough. I'll show you what these bad boys are looking like. They're rising up a little bit. Rising up against. Wait, it's a band. These things are poofing up a little bit, just because they're on a warm surface. But we're going to boil them, and I will slide the camera over so you can see the process, and then we'll get to the baking really, really soon. Any questions so far? Everyone's still having some fun, I hope. This is also a fun activity you can do with, you know, your pets, I mean your kids, yeah, your pets and significant others, neighbors, anyone you have hostage in your mechanical room. Yeah. Have I mentioned it's really dry in here? But again, if even actually especially that it's not perfect is great, because you'll get to see kind of the worst case scenario, short of zombie apocalypse, which is always the worst case. Yeah, I guess. So this end piece isn't staying together. I'm going to just throw a little bit of water in here. It is sucking up all the humidity. And what makes it especially challenging is if I crank the humidity by like running the shower on the warm setting, not the cold setting, and I flood the apartment with steam. It's fantastic until that wonderful humid air gets to the glass, which is usually between -5 and -40 Fahrenheit. And then it turns to, what's it called again? Ice. And then at some point it melts, and then it gets into the tracks, and then those things that normally slide back and forth can't, because they're stuck shut because of all that ice. Yeah. And don't get me started about my arthritis, oi. I'm very much looking forward to being very strict keto again, probably 2 weeks. I had to go off intentionally for a bit, and I knew I was going to be dealing with a lot of arthritic pain, and yeah, we are definitely old, and the arthritis up here is it's not a good combination. The change in weather we have up in Winnipeg, and many old injuries. Does anyone have a tiny violin emote? Well, now's a perfect time to crack it open. Quad espresso latte. Yeah, I remember those. Those were rather pricey drinks. $7. 2 times $3.50. Okay, so we have, again, about 1/2 inch thick. We're just going to tie this up into a little knot. Good enough. Now, you don't look like a pretzel. I'll make the other ones look prettier.
I hope so.
Okay, I'm gonna rotate the camera. Hopefully I don't break anything. Still shaky, still shaky. Okay, so the oven is at temperature. This is boiling. I'm gonna take this bad boy, slotted spoon. I'm not sure if you can see that particularly well. Just do them one at a time. And depending on the concentration of the lye, depending on how chewy you want the exterior to be, like these are going to crack up nicely. And those little imperfections, just like me, those imperfections in the surface, they're going to be amplified when they dry out and they start baking up. So you're going to see some really cool cracks. And this has puffed up a little bit. Now, this is not going to win any beauty pageants, but that's fine. They're going to be delicious. Next, take a good look at the size, like it's barely fitting on the slotted spoon. It's going to puff up a bit more just because of the heat. Mariah Cat, Opa, we will see you soon. I don't know if you can see, but it has puffed up a bit. 2 more. Then we're going to give these a quick egg glaze. Although, in my world, the glaze is the thin layer that just goes on top and doesn't pool into the cracks or the recesses. A wash does. A wash you pours over everything and pools up somewhere. So glaze is just a thin layer that gently that is a thin coat on everything, but a wash will pool up somewhere. That's my world from painting. Depending on what cookbook you look at, you get 2 very different definitions, and the 2 words seem to be pretty much interchangeable. I think I might have boiled away a little bit too much water here, which is fine. Oh yeah, we're not winning any contest with these bad boys. Although this one's kind of cute. Yeah, it's more like a pretzel bun. You can also make sticks. You could just roll these out and just cook them as sticks, like glorified breadsticks that happen to be pretzels, or I guess giant pretzels. Wow. Do we still have music playing? Is it repeating? Sweet. Now you can be super precise and time this. If you look in different recipes, different books, you're going to see anywhere from 30 seconds, but you flip it out after 15. Some are going to say like a full minute, 2 minutes. Some will say more or less. Alkaline stuff. We can add a little water to this, but let's see if I can get this to not break on me. Okay. So here we have our 4-ish pretzels. We're going to give them a quick sorry, trying to keep this in screen. And just a thin coat. I want the egg to stick, and I want the salt, the big chunks of salt that I'm going to sprinkle on here, to stick. The oven's preheated to 450 Fahrenheit, 450, and that's going to go into the oven for, depending on all the factors like the size, the humidity, the elevation, the type of pan you're using. If it's a dark pan or a light pan, because there's a difference in the cooking temperatures. If it's on a silpat, if it's not, if it's cosmic rays from Mars are getting involved. 10 to 15 minutes, 10 to 14 minutes. When the tops turn golden brown, we're good. And in general, that's where you stop the cooking. For you foodies out there, the Maillard reaction is usually best propagated at 350 Fahrenheit, which is why the vast majority of almost every recipe known to man recommends you cook things at 350 Fahrenheit. That's why. Maillard. The Maillard. This oven, I'm gonna start the timatron. At about 8 minutes, I'm gonna start watching it more closely. We determined last time that the bottoms were a little crisp, but it was about right. I think it was 13 minutes was about right. It's also going to depend on how thick your finished pretzels are, so unless you're really freaking consistent with your ingredients and the thickness that you roll it out and how much you've let it rise, and again your local humidity and all the other factors, you're still going to have a variance of at least a minute, probably 2 or 3 for your baking time. Queen Valerian, thanks for tuning in. I will give you a shout after this. I don't think I can pop by tonight, but I have a better solution for the issue at hand. But thanks for tuning in. Unless you guys want to pop by for pretzels. I mean a business meeting, because I'm an essential service. Okay. I am going to top this up with some more water. Yeah, do I give the shameless plug for the alternative goth scene royalty? Or I'll wait for Mr. Ogremine to log in on his own sometime. I'm going to fetch the dough. Oh. When I said poof up a bunch, I wasn't kidding. Oh, that's huge. Not what she said. Damn it. Someone has to remind me to stop being 12. So this is going to make about 8 big pretzels. And I guess I can start forming some soon. Close to now. Yes, I'm using a paring knife to cut into this because I know it's going to be a little sticky. I'm going to grab just a little piece. Just gonna have some fun with this. I'm going to roll this out a little bit. Yeah, so this dough is a lot silkier, a lot smoother, a lot easier to work with. Rolling out a lot better. The difference between this dough that I made live versus the stuff that I made earlier, I wasn't in a rush when I made this. I was in a rush when I made the other stuff. Remember when I said you shouldn't rush things, especially bread? Yeah. This is it live in action. Do you see how much easier this is to roll out? At this point, I'm thinking I should just throw everything in the oven into the garbage and start over. Okay, fine, I won't. But you guys get the idea. And this is mostly holding its shape. It's not springing back. Five minutes. Oh, Wade, you're hilarious. Like, if you really wanted to twist these up and go all sorts of crazy, you can. Like some sort of like alien Cthulhu sign. I don't know. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't that cute? Wasn't that pretty? I think I did that a little too quickly. Whatever. I'm channeling my inner Baba right now. I'm gonna cut out another chunk here. Okay, these have been in the oven for 6 minutes. I will need to get some things ready over here. Oven mitt and a cooling rack. Okay. Rustic is right. I mean, if I really wanted to be fancy, I could take like 3 strands and do like a French braid. If I knew how to do that. Do-do-do. 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 You can have fun with these, do whatever you want. That wasn't supposed to sound snarky. Or you can just go for the really simple knot. It's still going to taste good. Doesn't matter what the final shape is, it's still going to taste good. So just adding a bit more water to the solution here, because I know I boiled off a couple of cups. Because again, it's super freaking dry in here. This ready to go. You know what? I'm going to show you what these bad boys look like. Now these were rather large. Again, not what she said, but we got some pretzels. We got us some pretzels, and the bottoms perfectly golden brown. Let's have to put this down because the oven mitt is not doing enough of its job to stop me from burning myself. But the bottom perfectly done. Tops, I don't know, let's call it perfectly done. Super hot. Unlike me. Cooling rack is going to go somewhere else, and we've got these are pretty big. Again, not what she said. Not when I was around, anyways. I think I'm cut off. I'm going to put this somewhere else to cool down.
In my belly.
Now there is something that's a little neat, is the Silpat. You will see that salty stained goodness. Conveniently it'll wash right off of this. So we're going to get another batch ready to go. Just as soon as I roll this bad boy out. Okay, so just to recap, none of anything that I've done today takes any real talent or skill. It's a little bit of preparation and a complete lack of fear. And even though those first pretzels, the presentation was very rustic, i.e. crappy, still looks pretty damn tasty, and I know it's going to be pretty damn tasty, and as soon as I'm done rolling this one out, we're going to set the next batch up. Yeah, I wish. I wish I could get gluten-free flour to do this. But unfortunately, that's not how the real world works. That's going to be super cute. Just like DJ Nouveau. Okay, so this goes in the boiling solution for about, again, 30-ish seconds. I'm going to flip it over in a little bit. The low pH is going to make the tops crisp up better. Wait, low? Am I screwing that up? Yeah. The alkaline bath is going to help the exterior crisp up better. And there's some keto recipes that require baking soda, not as a leavening agent, but as an alkalizer to actually change the pH. This one's almost done. It's so cute. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. I could cook more than 4 at a time. I think it's just easier to do 3 or 4 batches at 10 minutes each. And unless you're making a bunch for later, it's kind of dangerous to do a full batch because you're going to get 8 rather large pretzels. You can see how little of this bowl I've used so far to make 4 decent sized pretzels.
Oh no.
Oh no, I know.
Breath.
Oh no is right. Too many pretzels. My world is over. It's a catastrophe. Hashtag free Mars. Yeah. If I had infinite money, I would invest a lot into allergies and what happened in the last 50, 100, 200 years. Like, did we have allergies and just didn't know about it? Or have things changed with the biology of our food, the way we're growing it, us? Because I think something's changed. That was the pretzel belching, not me.
Right.
No, really? Again, we have pretzels. Oh, no space. Do I have a room camera? There we go. Again, a really quick glaze. Just enough egg on top. Wash. Just enough glaze on top to stick and have the salt stick to it. I hope I didn't press any buttons on there. On there being my cell phone because I'm using it to remote control my broadcast computer. Computers are wonderful. I mean, big hands. I've got tiny, dainty hands. Into the ovenometer, the ovenomatic for some random number of minutes. Can take a good look after 9. Brain, nah. There's really no substitute for practice other than maybe luck, but just dive into it. Dive into it. And I have been successful at certain endeavors in life because of a little bit of culinary prowess. I'll leave it at that. I'm sure everyone can fill in the blanks. I'm sure you can pick up what I'm throwing down. I'm not going to smell what I'm cooking because that's way too obvious. Brain Addict, thank you for the cheers. Does anyone have a request for next week? Yeah, Dust Picnic, I wish I could be down there. I'm about a 30-hour drive away. I wish. Chicken? Yeah, we can do that. I think the real question, the better question is, what would you like to see me make that you would want to make at home? But I'll tell you just how easy it is. I'm still waiting for a deal on a good loin so I can do a beef Wellington. And it sounds really complicated because you have your loin that you have to prepare properly, and then you have your mushroom base, and then you have your prosciutto wrap.
Stroke me off.
Yeah, beef stroke me off is pretty easy to cook. I mean, really, it's just ground beef with, you know, your butter, sour cream, some noodles, bit of garlic, salt, pepper, more butter. Boom, you're done. Yeah, you can use mushrooms. Kind of in the description, but yeah. And I don't want to sound dismissive of the different recipes, but if you want chicken parmigiano, if you want beef stroganoff, if you want Wellington, if you want like Chinese buns or dim sum, let me know. There's very little that is. Please believe me when I say you're not dismissed. You are stuck in detention till the end of the stream. You are not allowed to leave. I could do a chicken. You know what? I don't think I've done a Parmesan really anything. And I could do that definitely on a keto stream. See, some of these recipes are just inherently keto. Oh, you know what I need to do next week? Take all that back. I have to do something with bacon. Because I weave up at least 1 pound of bacon every couple of days. At least once a week, I'll weave up a pound of bacon. And I don't do a bacon weave just because it's pretentious or because I want to show off or flex cooking stuff. I weave up my bacon because it's the best way to cook bacon. It's super convenient. There's minimal mess. And being able to literally cut the shape of bacon you want to make a sandwich, so you have the perfect amount of bacon between your slices of whatever you're making a sandwich with. It's a beautiful thing. It elevates food to something above art. Something between like music and sex, something along those lines. Yeah. Well, a few weeks ago, I did an apple pie with a bacon weave lattice, and I cooked the bacon a little too much, but instead of the normal apple pie lattice on top, like the normal pie crust, I did bacon. Yeah. And then I served that with some homemade vanilla ice cream, which is super, super easy to make, even keto. You can make 15 minutes of work and a few hours in the freezer. You can make your own ice cream with a hand mixer. You don't need any fancy gadgets or anything else. Yeah, and I served it with some sharp cheddar cheese, and it was sweet. Now, I probably should have candied the bacon, but just that combination of sweet, and I made the applesauce at home, of course. But that combination of apple with the bacon, with the cheese, and the vanilla ice cream. Oh, and the vanilla, it was homemade extract as well. And all of these things sound a little over the top. So in this bottle are 2 whole vanilla beans and 4.5 ounces of vodka. That's it. So it just sits in here for a few months, and then it's ready to use. And every time I use my vanilla extract, I just top it up with vodka at the end of the day. And within a couple of days, the vanilla extract is fully ready to go again, and I'll get something like 36 ounces of extract out of this over a few years. And I raffled off 7 of these just to viewers, just based on channel points. So I'll probably do a dozen of these for next year if you guys want to tune in, because it's fun. It's all fun. Doop-a-doo. Tuck that underneath. Tuck that underneath. These guys can make friends. No, see how many crazy cool designs. Oh, and it's way cheaper than store-bought. Oh my god, it's so much cheaper. And you know the ingredients that are going in it. And yeah, and it literally is that easy. It literally is, you take 2 B grade, not A, you take 2 B grade vanilla beans. You cut them, split them, pop them in the bottle, top it up with vodka, and give it a shake once a week, or turn it upside down once a week, preferably in an amber bottle, so it doesn't get denatured from sunlight, so the sunlight doesn't, the UV doesn't penetrate and affect the vanilla inside. Yeah, and it's so much cheaper, and it makes a heck of a gift too. I thought so. You can. My sister uses bourbon. You can use whatever alcohol you want. You can use rum. You can use like a spiced, like amber or a regular rum. You can use whatever alcohol you want. I would not recommend using a liqueur. I would go for something that doesn't have any added sugar. That's something that's at least 80 proof, like 40% alcohol or up. Yeah, Celador, that's a great question. Any real alcohol? I don't know if Scotch is a good booze to use. If you had a non-peaty Scotch, that would work, but bourbon for sure. For sure, bourbon works. Okay, the stuff in the oven is just about ready, so we're going to do a really basic pretzel on this one. Look. Oh, look at that guy. Look at that little pretzel. I could put like little eyes on him and turn him into a little squid monster. You're stealing a what? Well, I guess DJ Nuvo's gonna steal a pretzel. I guess we get to hear her squeeing with delight. Squee. I can't stress enough how much easier it is to roll this stuff out with the dough that I worked on a lot longer than the stuff that I rushed. Huge difference. Huge. Oh, I still have some of a couple of these vanilla beans left. You can get these like a 10-pack or 20-pack on app from Amazon for it ends up being a couple of bucks a piece, I think. Really, they're already popped up too much.
Grab an end, I'm sure that's great. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna cook them till they're a bit darker. Need these to be cooked just a touch more. I want the exterior to be more crispy.
Yeah, I think they need an extra 5 at least.
Yeah, I think they need a couple more minutes. That does sound fancy. Ew. Oh, fine. So apparently I'm being chastised for not making these look like actual pretzels, because I'm having funsies with the shapes over here. So I mean, we can make these about 8 inches long. I mean, the traditional way is about this big, and then you just do like the really quick knot, and then let these things puff up. So I can do a couple of these bad boys about that size. So that's about 8 inches. Okay. Yeah. So these are a little darker brown, and these are, yeah, that's where I want to be. So as much as I hate to do this, I'm going to cut this one right in the middle so we can double check. The reason why you let dough cool, like big things cool to a room temperature, is because the exterior dries out more. In the middle, you're going to have this dense core where all the moisture is, and as you let it slowly cool down to room temperature, that moisture dissipates to the rest of the baked item. On smaller things like breadsticks or small dinner rolls, you can serve those straight fresh from the oven. For things like a loaf of bread, if you cut it straight out of the oven, you're going to get a bunch of crumbs. B, the center, you're going to have this log of really, really dense, very moisture-loaded dough that's going to seem undercooked. Exact same thing happens with steak, which is why you need to let steak rest for a few minutes, just so the moisture can spread out through all the fibers again. So in here, I'm trying to show you exactly what this looks like. Like, I know the rest of this is cooked. I know this is cooked, but I still have this dense part where there's a bunch of water in here. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. So these are a little mangled, but I'm going to put these on the cooling rack, and I will be right back to do the next batch. Yeah, it's part of the urban legend about not eating fresh bread and it'll make you throw up. That's kind of where it comes from. Because if you bite into the middle of a loaf of fresh bread, you're going to have that really dense ball that's just going to sit in the pit of your stomach. And that's why. Because the moisture hasn't had a chance to disperse. It's the little things like that. Once you hear it, you're probably going to remember it for the rest of your life. And it sort of explains a lot of things, and you can apply that to most of your other cooking. And it's just a little bit of that trivia goes a heck of a long way for your success in the kitchen. Again, you don't need to know why, you don't need to know how it works. Understanding why it works sort of helps explain why you need to let things cool down to roomish temperature. And some things they'll say cool to room temperature, and it's usually something larger like a loaf or a big cake of some sort. That's the other reason why when you have a cake, you let that sucker cool right down before you do anything to it. And it's not just because the icing or frosting is going to melt when you put it on top of the straight out of the oven cake, unless you're going for that and you know what you're doing and the recipe is really precise, really specific for it. You let things like your cakes cool right down. You let things like your steak settle a bit. You need to let it rest. And bread. But yeah, breadsticks, like things with a small cross section, even dinner rolls. You can eat those straight out of the oven. The same reason why you can eat pitas straight out of your frying pan, right? Because there's minimal distance between the exterior and the center of a pita, like a quarter of an inch, half an inch. I think it's that kind of trivia that something will jog my memory and I will expand on something that I will never remember to do on YouTube, even if I'm doing a voiceover. But when I'm not in a rush to do anything and I'm just chatting with all y'all, it just comes out naturally on Twitch, which is why I think Twitch is a far superior format, especially for what I do, rather than here's the instructional, here's the demonstration of me doing the cooking. Because let's face it, my kitchen looks pretty ghetto. And even with world-class Lucasfilm style editing, I'm not going to look nearly as good as Gordon Ramsay or any of the other celebrity chefs in their commercial, $300,000 kitchen, just for the appliances. Not to mention they know their stuff way more than I do, and they're more skilled than I am, and probably better looking. All that aside, no, never mind. They beat me on everything, but I get the banter here. But yeah, if turning these into a YouTube video, I'm not going to be able to expand as much as I'd like to on the minutia. And it is more realistic home cooking, and if and when I screw something up, I do my best to not cover it up. I want to show you guys my mistakes, because that's the opportunity to show you how to fix things when they go bad, because they are going to go bad. It always happens. And if you don't freak out when things go bad, you're halfway there. Halfway there. Okay. I'm glad you like it. You know what? If you guys have a request for a recipe though, do me a favor, send it to me in a whisper. I'll jot down the stroganoff and the chicken parm. See if I can salvage those later. I think those are a bit better though. I'm gonna cook one more batch. And I think I might have to rinse off my silpat because it's getting a little funky looking. It's getting a little stained. A little bit of graffito on there. Is that the singular of graffiti? Graffito? I used to know that one. Wade can tell us. Wade knows a bunch of stuff. And Wade has the power of the internet behind him. Wade, what's the singular of graffiti? What is one piece of graffiti? I have one brick, one wall, there was graffiti. I remove the brick, there's paint on it. What do I call it? Please and thank you. Is it a conundrum? Is it a dilemma? Maybe a monolemma? A trilemma? Lemata? A lemming? Okay, we have two of these little guys. Hopefully not, she said. Look how cute that is. Come on. Isn't that adorable? Apparently I'm adorable. I think she's biased. With a bow tie puzzle on top. Okay. There's a few and a couple more. Yeah, I think the silpat's going to survive one more batch, and then it's going to be Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else I can do today. I'm happy to do Q&A. You can ask me dangany or anything. Don't be shy. Please don't be shy. Oh, there's a question that I had for you beautiful people out there. When there's a bit of a lull in the food production, do you want me to fire up some Twitchy games? Brain, I don't know. I turned my oven on about 20 minutes before I figured I was going to need it. It's electric, so it heats up quick enough. 15-20 minutes is usually how long it takes to heat up. We have some of the cheapest electricity on the planet, so I'm allowed to be a little wasteful. I think we're somewhere around 7 cents per kilowatt hour. That's like 5 cents US. Don't hate me, don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, generally it's 15-20 minutes. Yeah, gas is tricky. If you have something that's got a well-calibrated thermostat, just saying it's gas leaves a lot. It leaves a lot of information out, because is it a convection? Is it forced air? Is it just heat source? What kind of a thermostat do you have? Is it regularly maintained? Do you actually put a probe in there to check the temperature? Do you look for hot spots? There's a lot of things going on there, other than you have a gas oven. So to get it right, I think you'd want to test it. And just take a look at how long it looks like it takes to heat up. But I would, if you happen to have one of these bad boys, really handy, one of the old infrared laser thermometers, or an actual heat probe. Yeah, like I know that some ovens, kind of like barbecues, you just turn it to a certain amount of gas and it just keeps cranking up that much heat. And kind of like a barbecue, if depending on what's happening outside and depending on what's happening with the airflow, your temperature is going to vary a bit. Our oven beeps. It's electric. It's low-end commercial apartment stuff. I set the temperature. When I turn it on, it beeps when it hits the temperature, and it's pretty close. I know there's a couple of hot spots in my oven, which is a really good reason to turn your food about 40% of the way through the cooking process. Give it a rotate. Yeah, if it doesn't seem accurate, see if you can calibrate it, and if you can't adjust it yourself, figure out what the real temperature is and just make notes of it somewhere. And I know it's a pain in the butt, and I know you shouldn't have to do it. First world problems, right? But yeah, it's a nuisance, and it kind of sucks. That's what I would do personally. And you only really have to do it once every 6 months, every 8 months. And if things seem to be a little wonky with your cooking times, maybe take a peek at it again. Okay, these are getting the egg treatment. I remember in one of my bread episodes, I went into quite some detail about the difference between milk and water and egg washes. Technically they were glazes, but whatever, washes. And when you can use something like honey, butter, when you want to go like half and half. This bad boy's going in the oven for about 12 minutes. The little ones are gonna cook a bit faster, so I'm still going to 10 minutes. I'm gonna take a look at them. I might pop the little ones out. Yeah, my last job, I was the controller for a mechanical company that we kind of specialized in food service. When I was there for just under 11 years. We built hundreds of commercial kitchens, usually restaurants. And over the decades before that, I worked with my dad. Growing up, I worked with my dad, sort of apprenticed as a plumber, a gas fitter. And my dad was very much into buying and selling restaurant equipment and a contractor for building restaurants. So I've been around the food service and the restaurant industry for most of my life. And kind of unfortunately, I've seen firsthand just how hard it is to have a successful restaurant. You can have the right location, the right recipe, the right people, the right management. By right people, I mean perfect staff. You can have amazing recipes, you can have an amazing source of food, the perfect everything, and you still go out of business in 6 months. Like the single biggest problem that restaurants seem to have is cash flow. And if you don't have enough cash in the bank to exist for 6 months without a single sale, but still spending money on food, don't bother opening the doors. I know of one restaurant in Manitoba that was profitable in its first month. And it was run by my cousin. I mean, I had nothing to do with it, but there's one restaurant out of at least 1,000 restaurants that I'm aware of for their finances over the years that was profitable in its first month. It's that rare. Now, franchises don't count, and like I've heard of stories like in Victoria, Canada, where they opened, I think it was an Earl's, and all of the staff, barring I think the head chef, were hired from a modeling agency. They just wanted nothing but sex appeal. They just wanted nothing but good-looking people. It was packed. Bad reviews, people kept going back for the eye candy, for all the pretty boys and girls. Is it genius? Kind of. I mean, people went back if there was a need for it, if there was a market demand, I guess it was being met. Does it really count as a restaurant? I don't know, sort of. Okay, so we have this. We're just going to tuck one little end over. Is that better? Is that a cute little pretzel? Is that a cute little guy? Look at that little guy. He's so cute. Fine. Oh yeah. So I've got a ton of restaurant stories. We had some of the best food service technicians known to man working for us, and we had a sandwich bar prep table like that you'd see at any Subway or sandwich place or pizza place, where you have like a refrigerator with some doors underneath, and then some wells that have cooled veggies and a sneeze guard in front. You know the thing. I'm sure you've seen it. We had one of those. Every time we sold equipment, we'd refurbish it and slap one of our stickers on it with the date. I got called into the back of the shop one day, and our head food tech guy said, "Rob, you have to see this." So I go to the back and I look, and he opens the door, and there was not one, not two, not three, but 6 of our stickers on the door. We had bought from auction, refurbished, and sold the same thing at least 6 times. Kind of crazy. So when people ask me why I don't own my own restaurant, if and when I retire, I'm going to probably buy a cafe to lose all of my money. Just 'cause I want a cool place for my friends to hang out where I can make a proper coffee for them. And that's going to be it. And I have no expectation of making a single penny of profit from it. I just don't. Because I know better. And now, having said all of that and all the horror stories, if you do luck out and make it, if you're successful with a restaurant, you can make an absolute fortune. It can be an absolute gold mine. It's a big gamble, though. Most people here in Winnipeg that open a restaurant, they're basically buying themselves a job. Which isn't bad. It's actually really good. We have a huge immigrant population here. I'm a first generation Canadian. It's pretty common for a lot of, the highly volatile is putting it mildly. A lot of people come over with some money from the homeland. They come over, they buy into a restaurant, and even if it's not particularly successful, at least they're buying themselves a job, and it's one path to citizenship here. Oh, tell me about the home restaurant trial. Is it exactly what it sounds like? People get licensed to run a restaurant out of their house and sell commercially, or? I mean, it's a bit of a guess, but yeah. Okay. That's not bad. For our farmers markets, we need to be, there's a pretty cheap certification, and you have an inspector come down. I think it's only a couple of $100 for them to come down and make sure that your kitchen is set up and that you understand basic food handling, and you need your food handler certificate, but they make sure that your kitchen is set up for, to not give everyone salmonella, as tasty as it is. And and you're allowed to sell at the farmers markets. And I'm tempted, kind of tempted, not entirely, to make some keto treats for probably not this year, but the following year, just to promote my channel. Because this is fun. Like, what I'm doing right now, I think is a ton of fun. If I was doing this to sell individual meals and I didn't have this interaction, I'd be looking for I can't even crack those jokes. I would not like it, no sir. How's that? Yeah, I would definitely not enjoy it nearly as much as I enjoy what I'm doing here on Twitch. And this is mostly for my own sanity. And I hate to say it, but it's I'm looking for the silver lining, and if nothing else, COVID has introduced me to a lot of truly fantastic people, and I'm lucky that I stumbled into this whole Twitch community, because some of the people I've met are absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible people. The Vlahos on Twitch, Facebook /the Vlahos, OnlyFans /the Vlahos. I think Instagram is /the Vlahos. Can Wade give me a shout out? Hey, that guy looks like me. Weird. That's what? Wasn't hyperlinked. Yeah, it's not a common name, I know, I'm sorry. The joys of having one of those funny foreign names. I think for a stretch goal one of these days I might do the entire stream either in French or Greek. Because I know people are going to really enjoy that. Like they'll say, oh, dude, speaking Greek is so cool, and then after a few minutes they're like, English please, por favor. I sure do paint Warhammer 40k minis. You know what? I got a minute here. I'll break one out. This little bad boy. It's all Greek to you. That's hilarious. You know, my grade 8 science and math teacher, I went to a French immersion, late immersion program. So we got thrown from an English program to everything except for band and English were in French. So like gym was in French. Art wasn't in French either, it was in English. But like math, physics, chemistry, history, social studies, everything was in French. And of course we had a French class. Grade 8 science teacher, math and science, kept saying it's all Greek to me. Class of 20, 3 of us were Greek. 3 of us were Greek. And we kept saying, but it's not Greek. And me being, you know, kind of on the spectrum, I was like super literal back then. And yeah, I just didn't get it. And it wasn't funny. It was never funny. But I'll give you a pass. The first couple of times it's fine. I knew a guy named Luca, and I did it. Everyone did it the first couple of times. They said, do you live on the 2nd floor? And I'm like, in hindsight, I feel like a total douchebag for cracking that joke because it was so freaking hysterical. Yeah. So it's almost one of my life's regrets. Although he was a bit of a douche himself. Anyways, hopefully this shows up on camera. I did a demonstration on Verdatio style painting for the Renaissance skin tone. Hopefully the light picks this up. I did this guy mostly with inks and an airbrush. Yeah, the light is not doing it justice. But you can see from the bottom the undershading to the highlights on top. There's pictures of this on my Discord. There's a link to my Discord on the Facebooks. Yeah, it's a Cyber Minotaur from some game that was on some sort of Go Kick Me fun starter. But the vast majority of this guy was painted in 2 hours. And then there was about 30 minutes of some touch-ups. Painted with just acrylic and a brush. Is the skirt, kilt I guess. The weapon I cleaned up, and the cybernetic arm with the cabling. And the sculpt itself has this really stupid position for his eye. And there's this like cybernetic thing around the eye, which is fine, but the actual sculpt is a little wonky because his right eye is not in the right place. It's a little lower down, so it's a touch off, but whatever. I mean, just for I was waiting for instruction from a commission that I'm doing for some Warhammer 40k figs, and I thought, you know, poops and giggles, I'm just going to reach into the tickle trunk and ask the viewers what they want me to paint. And it was either going to be some sort of a robot or a monster. So we sort of settled on both. I picked up, yeah, Calidor, that's the Celador, sorry, that's fine. You can do it again. I'll give you another pass. I've always appreciated the hobby for 40k. And if I never play a game of Warhammer 40k again, I'm still happy to paint. Like I absolutely fell in love with the painting. And again, I'm nothing to write home about, but I understand the medium. I understand how my airbrush works. I understand how the paint works. I understand how light works and the shapes and the forms. I've kind of researched it a bit, but I haven't practiced it. So I can't freehand whirl beans. I can barely draw straight lines. I can't do stick figures. I can't doodle. But my models look fine, because to me, it's paint by numbers. Speaking of paint by numbers, pretzels. Real Farina, hey, long time no see. Thanks for all those cheers. I'm going to give these another 1 minute in the oven. I want them to be just a touch more crispy. I'm going to do just a couple more. Always cooking eggs. Well, there's worse things to be cooking. Oh, this is already drying out on me. Good Lord, it's so dry in here. I wish I could find a good tabletop group online. I used to play Roll20 Pathfinder on the Roll20 platform after the COVID's hit, and unfortunately my play group really sucked. The DM was a bit of a douchebag. Some of the guys were cool, some of the girls were cool, some of the boys were also douchebags, and it just wasn't enjoyable. But I see the format working. I think it all works online, and you can still have some good role play if everyone's into it. And if you know, I don't know if I'd want to do old school Pathfinder, especially not society play, just because I think the game system itself is a little too old and it's far too abusable. Yeah. Speaking of abusable, let's do this a little better. Yoink. And last one. Yeah, second ed, I didn't look forward to buying the books, but and I didn't like the way it was dumbed down from first ed, the way D&D was dumbed down. I'd rather have the more complex game system, because otherwise, what's the real difference between Pathfinder and D&D? But at the end of the day, a good story is a good story, and epic tales with you and your friends are still epic tales with you and your friends. And the system's kind of secondary. It should be anyways, if you're into the story and the actual play. So if you know anyone that's running a campaign, and if you know a way that I can double my free time, I'm all ears, and I would love to play. I would love to play. My play group did like when we were playing in Meat Space, because I usually brought treats over. Ooh, hot. Oh, hot potato. Hot pretzel. Hot. Burning hot. Hot, hot, hot. Oh. Okay, here's the last batch. You know what? I think, wow, we are going to get to 3 hours. Thanks to my complete lack of time management skills, we're going to be right on time. Love it. Nice. Nice shot, Pretzel. Love it. This pretzel bathwater is also turning very brown. This is definitely nothing you want to drink. Yes, it's just baking soda. The baking soda and water. There's 9 cups of water and 2/3 of a cup of baking soda in there. You can use lye if you have it lying around. You have it lying around. I'm so hilarious. just an alkaline bath of some sort. The recipe is at that website, as are all of my other recipes. It's searchable from the index, from the root, just thedailybear.ca, because I'm Canadian, eh? You will find a section on keto. The cooking has everything in it, and you can just search for things in there. WordPress it's okay. I don't mind that format. Look at the little guy. He's so cute. Science. Yeah, these are really easy to make, and the vast majority of everything that I make on Twitch or put on the Facebook group or my website, it's all designed with no fancy ingredients, no stupid gadgets, no fancy techniques. Like, if you've got functioning, mostly functioning limbs and kitchen and basic appliances like, a spatula, knife, or rolling pin, clean work surface, some pots and pans. Tonight here, no. For Shock later, I don't know. Shock, are you doing a request tonight? Once in a while on my stream, I will do a request. I'll just go to the store, buy whatever I feel like is on sale. I'll just come home and lay it out on the counter and say, what do you guys want me to make? Pick a meat, pick a veg, we'll work out a style. And then I'll put together the recipe after I make it. And those streams are a ton of fun just because it's constant back and forth with the viewers. And really none of this is brain surgery or rocket science. Did I get that right? Rocket surgery or brain science? Yeah, none of the above. None of the above. Okay, we're almost done here. The last pretzel has come out of the bath. And I'll show you how gross this looks now. It's pretty gross. Pretty gross. Yes, and the Maillard reaction is the thing that turns things brown. It's the caramelizing of proteins and sugars. And yeah, at 350 Fahrenheit is usually where it's encouraged to happen. Yep. Everything you just posted, perfect. And it gives it that very distinct pretzel flavor. I should turn on my Timetron. Timex. Comment below if you know what I'm talking about. Oh, you know what I probably should have done was giving these guys a quick little eggy weggy washy washy with sprinkles of salt. He's so silly. I get distracted. I'm old and senile. Come on. Who am I again? Whoopsie. Okay, let's try that again. I hope the stream didn't just end there. Okay. Okay, good. My monitor just spontaneously turned off. I don't know why. I'm wondering if I have a loose connection to the back. Oh, I did not know that it's the dog and the fly too. Wow, that's some really solid trivia. Well done. Yeah, if everyone can like, share, and subscribe to my LiveTube. I'm not getting paid to say this. I still think that Shock is a criminally underviewed in the Twitchiverse. I don't understand how he doesn't have a gazillion followers. I honestly don't. So the content is top quality, and he's an awesome guy to boot. So yeah, the sharing on the social media, I know it's repeated to death. It really does make a difference. Like the channel I moderate for, we just hit 10,000 viewers or followers, and the vast majority of that was just from people sharing the link and just getting the word out. So it really does help when you tell your friends. So let's take a minute out and do that again. And normally I'm not one to endorse or even encourage chronomancy, but today you'll get a pass. Let's go back in time a few hours and get your friends to watch this. And send some money to Shock. Yeah, you can quote me on that too. Casper's Cloud, yeah, you can totally quote me on that. I stand by it. Takes a lick and keeps on ticking. Ah, that's terrible. I hope we never invent teleporting technology, because I, for one, don't want to deal with the ethical discussion of are you still the same person? Because the mathematician in me says no, you're not, and the physicist in me says no, you're not. No, I mean like you put yourself into a box and you get, rematerialized somewhere else, or a copy of you gets rematerialized somewhere else. Like I get quantum entanglement, but it's nothing that we can control on the scale of a person yet. Is there? We haven't done that yet, have we? Like I get worried when spooky action at a distance becomes a part of the mainstream vocabulary. Yes, I do remember that, balancing the equation. So for anyone that doesn't remember that really cool episode, when people were teleported, they were confirmed to have arrived on the other side of the machine, and the people that were being sent over had to be killed. They were supposed to be destroyed to balance out the equation. Oh my god, that was such a good episode. That was so good. It tingles. Ugh, goosebumply. Yeah, that was really cool. I haven't seen Outer Limits in ages. Please stand by. Back in the days when TV was a little better than it is today. The good old days, right? Back when GeoCities was a thing. Okay, we are going to be wrapping up soon. I don't know if I can raid out of here. I've never streamed with someone else's key before. Shock, can you let me know where we're going? Hey, my LiveTube is on. We can. Oh, wait. Oh, DJ C Death is on. We can go raid her. Yeah. Well, I'm going to let this last batch come out of the oven. I don't know if I have really anything else to add to the stream today. Really have to up my stand-up game. I mean, I've been standing up for a few hours. I don't know. Yeah, that's all I got. Oh, sure. Sure, I'll go dig one up. This one is closer to room temperature. It's still a little warm. Yeah, this one's pretty, right? It's so cute. You know, I probably should have slowed down on the braiding. And then someone can crack a braiding bunch joke, and I'm not going to get it. So I'm just going to cut this open. Actually, I'm going to rip this open. So the middle, we don't have any of that dense stuff in here. The stretchy goo. The outside, like this could have been baked a little longer, but this is. I don't like eating on stream. The outside of this is it's more crunchy. Oh yeah, mustard's coming up. Don't worry. Shock's back. Awesome. Yeah. So.
That looks perfect.
Yeah. This is kind of perfectly done. The outside is fairly crisp. When it dries out a bit, it's going to be a little more crunchy. If I used a little more, if I let these soak in the lye bath more, and the first couple of batches were, it was more alkaline. They reheat well. I don't own a microwave. I don't think I will ever buy a microwave oven. For me, the only use for a microwave oven is to make chocolate, which it's fantastic for doing. But yeah, and I don't have room for one, for microwave oven.
Yeah.
I reheat most of my food in a toaster oven. It takes a few more minutes, but it tastes so much better. And the food doesn't get weird and rubbery and soggy. I think in general it's a little better. And if you can't wait 10 minutes to heat up your food and make it taste like it's freshly baked, you better be earning Elon Musk kind of cash for that kind of an inconvenience. Just saying, there's got to be some trade-off, right? These reheat well. I would just put this in a toaster oven on just like warm, like 150 Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, like 275, 300, for like 10-15 minutes. And you can cut them in half and butter it, or put on whatever mustard you want, like brown mustard or something, or turn this into a sandwich. Just cut it in half. Lay down some like Swiss cheese or provolone or something, a couple of slices of your favorite deli ham, bunch of mustard, a couple of pieces of lettuce, maybe some tomato. Boom! You got a nice pretzel sandwich. If you're doing more than one batch, I recommend that you do make a larger bath, or replace either add more baking soda to the bath after the first couple of batches, just so you get more of that distinct pretzel flavor. Yeah, so I hope I answered that question. I really like the music. It was a good mix. Oh, Celador, yeah. I'll go grab one. Let me rephrase that. Yes, I could just take the dough and roll up a bun and leave it. Make sure it doesn't get much thicker than this, and it would take maybe 3 or 4 minutes longer. But you can totally make buns out of this, and then have an actual pretzel bun. And again, just cut it in half. Let it cool down though a little bit. Grab your old serrated bread knife. Slice that bad boy in half. I guess a bagel slicer would work too. Maybe. Probably. Should. I don't own one. Someone try it and let me know. I'd use this. Make a sandwich. Heck yeah. Why did you make them without salt, Ignatz? Shame on you. Shame.
Well, it's like frozen garlic bread. I mean,
Yeah, it is like frozen garlic bread. Oh, yeah. That reminds me. I have... I'm running kind of dangerously low on garlic, and I don't have a good supply of garlic, and it's not garlic season for many more months. But one of these days I will have to roast up a tray of garlic and make some fresh garlic butter with roasted garlic. And I'll probably do that when I do an episode on just bread, which I might do here. We'll figure that one out. Making bread is one of the core skills. All I do is I take the roasted garlic and I squeeze that into butter and I just whisk it up, like into melted butter, and I whisk it up, and then I just let that cool down. And the roast garlic is literally just trim the top of the garlic off, drizzle of olive oil from my family's farm in Greece, which everyone has access to, a couple of sprinkles of salt, wrap it up in foil, bake it in a muffin tray at 350 for about half an hour. A little longer if you want it more sweet, and then let it cool down a bit, and then you can squeeze the individual bulbs, the individual cloves out, and they just pop right out. And you can eat those bad boys like candy. It's absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Then you could just squeeze that into some melted butter, make your own garlic butter, and then you can throw in some parsley or chives or whatever you want. Spruce it up, throw in a bit of oregano, maybe some salt and pepper, whatever you want. Sky's the limit. See, these little guys, they're almost done. Almost done. The bottoms are almost done. This mitten is getting really, really warm. Hot. Yeah. Not a fan of cooked raisins. I have done streams before of just coffee. Did I do a whole stream on coffee? I think I did.
yeah.
Yeah, and I only did half of the methods of coffee. Mostly the non-espresso based brewing methods without a machine. So I did French press, I did AeroPress, I did Bricky Pot, Mocha Pot. What else did I do? Cold press. I don't know if there's enough interest in that. I'm not really a coffee snob, but I've been around the coffee business for 40 years or so, 38. And I have a near infinite supply of coffee, and we go through a fair bit. Go figure. French press is my coffee of choice. But a few times a month I'll break down and make a Greek coffee. Maybe once a month, tops. I should make it more often. I prefer it. Neat. Use nitrous to cold brew it. Wild. Okay, and I think these have been long enough to turn just a touch more brown. Yeah, perfect. And these tight little knots are a lot closer to that bun that everyone was talking about. because that's almost a solid. That's almost a solid bun, right? There's no real gap in there. So if I trimmed off this edge, hopefully you can see that on screen. If I just trimmed off this edge, I basically have a little pretzel bun here. If I made this bigger, I could turn this. I could have like a little slider out of this. And the bottoms are not black. These are, I'll just call it perfectly done. And again, big chunks of salt. Nice sound when they fall. One of the less traditional methods of testing to see if something is cooked is the sound it makes when you drop it. Let's just go with that. Yeah, they're pretty. They are pretty. Thanks. The bottoms look a little craptastic, and that's because the sill pad itself is super dirty right now. Shock, thanks for tuning in. It's always great to see you on your channel, and we will go raid somewhere right away. Hopefully, you know what? I'll try to do that now. So I think we should call this a day. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into the first episode of MyLiveChef with the Vlahos. Again, if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, feel free to send me a whisper or hit me up on any of the social medias. My Twitch page in the About, I have all my social medias linked there. So if you're not a fan of the Facebooks, you're always welcome to. DJ C Death is still on, so let's... I'm just going to see if she wants the raid. And if I could hear anything, I would be all over the communication. Yeah, you know what? We're just going to go raid. No, we're going to DJ Sister Pain because that's where DJ C Death is going. Yeah, so anyway, again, if anyone has any questions or concerns or requests, I'm always happy to take on requests. And especially if you have a keto challenge, if there's a food that you want me to keto-fy, let me know. Let me know, because I appreciate the challenge. But you guys stay good, be excellent to each other. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. Opa. Now let's see if this works. I don't have permission. Mr. Shock, I need you to do the raid, do the honors. If you're still here. I can't raid. Dang. Perfect. Thanks, Shock. And now we know.
Wrong DJ, you apologize to.
Oh no, did I apologize to the wrong DJ?
You apologize to.
Oh, I apologize to TJ Nuvo. What?